He often gets here.
Hey Andy, how are you?
I'm good.
Good?
This is mine.
It's just and then we have a.
No, I think that's yours. Yeah, sure, take it.
So how you guys been? You been busy?
No, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, you?
Okay.
Well,
I'm saying it because he's a matter of fact, you know. he
Kenny?
got that
Yeah, he's
just
been on, right?
Stuff around the house
Sure.
and the kids.
I don't think we can vote.
I'm watching my daughter's daughter.
Yeah, you can put on
She's
his
in
shirt.
Maui
You
for
can put
like
on
2
where the
weeks.
shirt
I'm not sure.
I'm sending
Yeah?
her pictures of Vasily, guys.
Yeah.
She's on the beach.
Okay, well, that makes
Not
sense.
doing it yet.
We will now call the East Amwell Planning Board meeting to order. Please stand for the flag salute. Our pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible,
Indivisible, with liberty and
justice for all.
In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, this is a regularly scheduled meeting pursuant to the resolution adopted on January 11th, 2023, with a meeting notice sent to the Hunterdon County Democrat on January 18th, 2023. A copy of the agenda for this meeting was posted to the township website on January 11th, 2024, posted on the bulletin board and filed in the clerk's office on January 11th, 2024. For logistical purposes, we will swear in our new board members before we do attendance. And the reappointed board members.
So we'll start with Mr. Catanacci. Okay, can you raise your hand, right hand, Mr. Catanacci? I state your name,
I, Richard Catanacci,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
the Constitution of the State of New Jersey.
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and to the governments established in the United States and in this state,
and to the governments established in the United States and in this state,
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people.
and I will faithfully, impartially, and justly
And I will faithfully, impartially, and justly
perform all the duties of the office of a member of the planning board
perform all the duties of the office of a member of the planning board,
according to the best of my abilities.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I get to sign that?
Yep. Okay. Ms. Wiggum? Did I say your name correctly?
Yes, that's right.
Can you please raise your right hand? I state your name,
I, Candace Wiggum,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and to the governments established in the United States
and to the government established in the United States
and in this state,
and in this state,
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform
and I will faithfully and impartially and justly perform
all the duties of the office of a member of the planning board,
all the duties of the office of the office of the planning board
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Mr. McGovern,
That's me.
I'll come over to you. I'll slide over.
She had all this written down for me, you know.
Give me another copy if you want.
That's how I felt.
Raise your right hand, please. I state your name.
I, Michael McGovern,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and to the governments established in the United States
and to the governments established in the United States
and in this state,
and in this state,
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform
and will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform
all the duties of the office of a member of the planning board
all the duties in the office of members of the planning board
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. Mr. Stinson?
I don't believe he's here, but Mr. Cadre is here.
And Mr. Cadre, go off. Can you please raise your right hand? I state your name.
I, Jamal Kadri,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and to the governments established in the United States
and to the governments established in the United States
and in this state,
and in this state,
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform
and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform
all the duties of the office of a member of the planning board
all the duties of the office of the members of the planning board
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you.
Mary Adam.
For attendance, Mayor Dante DePiero,
Present.
Township Committee Member Al Nardi,
Here.
Mr. Richard Catanacci, Mr. Richard Catanacci,
Here.
Miss Mary Van Horn, Miss Emily Deadweiler,
Here.
Mr. Matthew Colbert, Miss Candace Rubin,
Here.
Mr. Michael McGovern,
Here.
Mr. Richard Stenson, and Kristen Athanasia is here, and Miss Alexis Smith,
And also
Esquire.
here.
Thank you. Now may I have a nomination for a vote for chairperson?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Emily to be the planning board chair for 2024.
Can I have a second? Mr. Catanacci? Thank you. Is everyone all in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Any abstentions or no votes?
Oh, I kind of didn't vote for myself.
We will count that as in favor. Congratulations.
I think.
Congratulations.
Kristen.
I want to put it in.
Did you change your last name? Okay, I'll have to get that.
That's Candace. There you go, move her down, perfect.
Second, thank you.
So first thing, may I have can I get a nomination for vice chair?
I nominate Matt Cohut.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions, any objections? Okay, vice chair.
Congratulations.
So just before we get started, just for 1 second, Mr. Mayor, members of the planning board, thank you for placing your faith in me. I need to tell you that this is not something I expected or wanted. When I was asked to be on the planning board, I naively said, yeah, I'll do it, I'm just an alternate. Shouldn't be too bad. Well, here we are.
And we're glad.
What's that?
And we're happy.
I was gonna say, that's what you get for taking things seriously and working hard.
Right.
You know, in all seriousness though, I think East Amwell's a really special place. I feel, my husband and I both feel really lucky to have found this place and to live here. And that's why I serve. I think we all owe a debt of gratitude to the people who 25 years ago had the foresight to put the laws in place to fight so that we do have farmland, preserved open space and woodlands. And I also recognize that we have to be diligent always to protect that. So this is, for that reason, also I serve. The other thing I want to say is there are a lot of new members here. And so I do really want to acknowledge and thank the residents who come. You have the institutional knowledge that we may not have. We need it. Thanks for taking the time. I know it's a little icy out there. We're missing a couple, and hopefully we'll see more, but I really appreciate it. And then finally, as a chair, I view it as my responsibility to be open and honest and conduct the meetings smoothly and fairly. The other thing is I expect, it's been pretty calm lately around here, but I do expect there'll be differences of opinion or strong feelings on certain matters among the board, from the public, from residents. It's welcome. But at all times I ask, we should remain civil and respectful. We can disagree on policy, but not personally. And it will be my job to help ensure that, and I just ask all of you, please help me when I need it. With that, speech over. Thank you so much, and I'll do my best. Anything you want to say?
Honored to be here. That's it.
Well, I'm glad to have you. So next up on the agenda is we authorizing.
Oh,
Yeah. Sorry.
that's where you both then.
Didn't realize it.
No one of the, act
Break
like
your
I have.
groove.
Okay, so I state your name. I state your name.
I, Emily Deadweiler,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
to the government established in the United States
to the governments established in the United States
and in this state,
and in this state,
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform
and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform
all the duties of the office as chairperson of the planning board,
all the duties of the office as chairperson of the planning board,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
One more, yeah. Okay. I state your name,
I, Matthew Kohut,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
and to the governments established in the United States
and to the governments established in the United States
and in this state,
and in this state,
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform
and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform
all the duties of the office of Vice Chair of the Planning Board,
all the duties of the office of Vice Chair of the Planning Board
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Okay. Next up is authorizing contracts for professionals.
Madam Chairman, before we proceed, could I just say one thing?
Certainly.
I want to say I'm confident that the two of you are going to do great things in leading this board. And I think it's a very important board. And I also want to thank Al for his service as the chair during last year. I feel that he's given the planning board a very firm base and actually probably some good guidance about looking to do things that are proactive to help the residents of this town, to do things that protect our natural resources and keep it rural, but also, as you mentioned, he made sure to keep it civil and to have a very good discourse. So I wanted to recognize him as well.
No, I agree.
Yeah, thank you. It was a team effort. Absolutely.
You're a good model.
Thank you.
Anyone
try.
else? There'll be,
Thank you.
so authorizing contracts with professionals. For a few of you who are new, I was new very, very recently, and I remember sitting here at times being confused on why we're doing this, so just feel free to speak up if you have any questions. The first, we have three professionals, the attorney, the planner, and engineer. And at the December 2023 meeting, we discussed those professionals. The chair stated that he was happy with them. I think the then mayor was particularly happy with our planner, and we agreed to move forward to keep our professionals. So with that, I have three resolutions for approval. We'll take each one individually, but you're looking at me with questions.
No, I'm listening, I'm listening.
So I have three resolutions for approval, And with that, I'll take the first, I'll go through them unless there's any objections. Okay, so the resolution, first one is, Alexis Smith, Resolution Planning Board 2024-02, appointing the firm Parker McKay and Alexis Smith as attorney for the planning board. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Does she need to call the roll?
All in favor is fine.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I enjoy working with you all here, a great group who really takes value in your community and takes, like I've said in previous meetings, really takes action upon things like your master plan or examination report and shows how important your community is too, so.
We're gonna need you.
Yeah, we appreciate your guidance to date, and I'm sure we're gonna need more of it going forward, so thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you. I look forward to working with you more closely. Next one is planner. So Planning Board Resolution 2024-03, appointing Megan Stanley of, how do you say, Higher and Gruel, as planner for the Planning Board of East Amwell. May I have a motion to approve?
I so move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any objection? And finally, our engineer, Resolution 2024-04, appointing Paul Ferrero of Boswell Engineering as planning board engineer. May I have a motion to approve?
I'll go ahead, I'll go for it.
I mean, I have some questions in our discussion, but I guess you need to know if there's a motion first.
Yeah. Do I have a
Okay.
motion?
Yeah, there's nothing in motion,
Do I have a second?
just get it going.
I'll second it.
Well, we can
Mhm.
put it aside.
I don't know anything about our engineer. That's
Yeah.
that's the issues. We haven't really had anything where the engineer has testified. And I know that there were issues with the last engineer
The one before that.
before that.
Dober, yes.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of discussion, I didn't know if you had a chance to talk to the applicant about the contract provisions as well. So I'd be curious to know if you have.
Yeah, I did have a conversation with him, and though I am not thrilled with the price increase, I also recognize that they're not. We didn't put out a plan. We did not put out an RFP. We have business to conduct. As it for the planning board, the majority of what he bills is really ends up being out of escrow, and in the interest of moving forward, especially when we have a few things up on deck, some of which he's already familiar with, I propose that we continue with him.
Is it possible to have a contract that's not a full year contract then if we're not totally decided?
We do not have a retainer with him. I did not discuss with him having a shorter contract.
Well, let me ask, if I may, let me ask our attorney a question. Is this a term contract for a 1-year term?
Yeah.
Or do we have alternatives to that where it doesn't need to be a year?
I mean, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I know typically they are. I'm just thinking in a context where the chair's not particularly thrilled with the pricing arrangement. We don't know what the cost's going to be. If we're bound to a full year's contract, that could present, financial issues for the township. And if we're not obligated to hire for an entire year, perhaps it's possible to have a contract at the schedule of rates that was proposed by the applicant, and not be bound if we have issues.
Yeah, so it's just like any other contract, right? It's you contract for what you contract for. Since it didn't go out to RFP, you don't have that, what you're going out to bid for. The only issue that I see with doing a partial year is if you have a lengthy application and it gets adjourned a little longer than you might like, then you get into that trouble of having to renew a contract.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't contemplating that we'd pick 3 months or 6 months or something. Rather, I was thinking that we'd have a contract, but it not bind us to any particular term. Therefore, if we have an issue at month 7, we could choose to raise it because we're not bound for the full 12 months. It seems like flexibility might be helpful, given that I'm not sure if everyone's totally sure that we want to do it for a full year. I know I have some doubts, because if the chair hasn't been able to work out all the terms to her satisfaction on cost, I'm not keen to then bind us for a full year to it.
I'm also not overly concerned about cost, because going back, and this is for the planning board, I'm not speaking for the township, I think it's a huge difference. I'm not overly concerned because most of that everything last year was out of escrow. I am more concerned about keeping us on track and, completing the business before us. We have applications that were coming up, and we have a clock ticking.
I mean, I would make a motion or an amendment if we already have I don't think we have a second, do we?
It wasn't clear, I was gonna
So,
go back to
I
that.
mean, you can tell me, the two of you, Robert's Rules of Orders wise, but I would make a motion to appoint that firm, at the proposal, but not for any stated term.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, this motion allows us to negotiate a contract, so we can then go and
Yeah,
negotiate
so
a
that was
contract.
gonna be my next, so for example, when you, oftentimes you work out a shared services agreement, so you, for those of you who are involved in the governing body, you work out a shared services agreement, oftentimes the resolution says, the shared services agreement can be executed, pursuant to the approval of in township, in the case of the governing body, pursuant to the, approval of the solicitor and, say the township clerk or the administrator, or whoever it may be. So that can be done, giving the new chair the ability to work it out.
Yeah,
to-
I mean,
as you see
my
fit.
motion would be the one that I stated, and not more or less than that. And that would give authority to negotiate, but it would not authorize us having a 12-month term at this point. If after negotiations, there were a motion to everybody's satisfied and to do it for 12 months, we could consider that. But at this point, my motion is that we authorize a contract, but not for 12 months.
Could we develop an RFP with the assumption that that Paul Ferrero would bid on that, but then we'd have other options as well that would come forward, so we...
I think we could. I think Emily's point was, she's concerned that if we have applications coming up, that rather, if we had an RFP, it could delay things, right? Where you're waiting for multiple folks to apply, and then
Well,
in the
but
meantime...
Paul would be serving sort of time and materials until the RFP were decided.
That, if he accepts it on those terms, and he's not here to say whether he would or not.
Right.
Right.
But that's not, yeah. I mean, so I guess that's another way of going about it.
Dante, can you talk about the process that happened? When did he inform us of the change? And again, just to review how big the change is in the fees he would charge?
Well, since Emily had the last discussion on that, she could speak more to that. I mean, to the extent that we want to go into it in public session about contract negotiation, which is always a dicey issue. But I'll just say big picture. This is an engineering firm that we used for the township last year. It's an engineering firm that we used for the planning board for last year. That firm, the local firm, has merged with a larger New Jersey firm, and they have new rates. So we just received proposals for the township and for the planning board, and frankly, those proposals are significantly higher. And Emily was going to some of the specifics in that, that effect may be more to the township as a township attorney, because there are more things done on the township level as township engineer that are not charged back to applicants. Whereas here, I guess Emily was saying rightly that a lot of this gets charged to applicants in the time, but not everything. So it's a little bit difficult there, and we've over the past couple of weeks, we've tried to get more information, try to work this out. Not fully worked out, in my opinion, at least not on the township level. So it remains somewhat in limbo, which provides some difficulty for this body who has applications coming up, and that's why Emily was trying to deal
Move
with
us
that
along.
issue as well.
May I ask that
May I inquire?
Go ahead.
What are the rates? What are we talking about?
Well, so Alexis, well, what's your guidance in terms of, because normally when we talk about, personnel and contracting and things, it's not always in public session. Do you have a suggestion
Yeah,
on?
I mean, if you wanna have whatever the proposal is for the rates, cause it will very quickly become public information once it starts getting charged to an escrow. But if it's about the actual negotiation of the contracts of what the board proposed and what, that I would recommend going into closed session and tabling the resolution. But I think too, it's important to remember that, as the chairperson has said, we do have some pretty big applications coming up in the next couple of meetings. That one in particular will certainly require some engineering work. So
Right.
if something is not done tonight to authorize his work, his contract will have run out and we won't have an engineer for
Yeah.
the February, application. That'll certainly need an engineering review.
Would a month-to-month contract that's renewing every 30 days be an option that might be amenable to the engineering firm and work for the flexibilities that Dante is suggesting here?
I don't know. What I would propose is that we authorize the chair to negotiate something. I can assure you that I will do the best of my ability, taking into consideration the competing needs, and we will put I can't imagine not being able to put a termination clause in there of some sort. So it allows us to move forward. One thing I will do is if the township gets a better rate, I'll make sure we get it. But realistically, the bigger risk, or the bigger issue, the bigger challenge is not getting through our applications. We do have a clock, and that would be a problem. That would be, to me, the bigger cost, the higher cost to the township.
Just for next year, is this a lesson that we always should put out? An RSP?
Or, what I wonder about, given the disruptions every time we switch government, is whether or not we should have a township engineer on staff. I mean, are these
It's
billable hours
Yeah.
comparable with what we could have somebody have the institutional memory on salary?
Well, for the township, I can speak for the planning board. I do not believe the planning board itself actually paid money to an engineer last year. Everything was covered by escrow, or if not everything, most of it.
And it was only a couple of thousand that the township spent, so it's, a really small percentage compared to a salary. And, so I don't think it's fiscally doable probably to have someone on staff. The issue of when there are changes, that's always difficult. I'm not sure what the right procedural way around that is because, so it's just like attorneys. If law firm changes its rates, you may not stick with it, but maybe you've got a case with them and it becomes a difficulty. So I'm not sure what to say about that, but I don't think hiring somebody is a economically viable option.
I don't think you can.
Hi, all.
Legally, I don't think your proposal that you have somebody on staff that serves as both counsel for the municipality and the planning board, I think that would be illegal.
You certainly can't do that for attorneys, no.
What?
You certainly cannot have an attorney serve as a zoning or planning board.
We
But
recognize-
I believe the cases indicate that that's true of all experts, including engineers.
No, not for the, at least for attorneys, I'm certain it can be. You can't serve as the township solicitor and as a boards, like one of the land use boards.
I'm just reading the Bible.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
as I read the couple of cases there, that it applies to all experts. So
It's academic.
At this point, that's not what we're
Agreed.
discussing.
Yes.
And
No.
I do want to recognize, Kristen, you had something?
Just as a reminder, please everyone speak into their microphones.
Oh, I'm guilty. Mr. McGovern, you had something you wanted to say?
Just real quick, I know what engineers do, but
maybe, but I don't know exactly what they do for our township. Now, my question is, as law firms, you can usually have a law firm on a retainer and pay by jobs individually. Is that a possibility, or any money saved that way? Has anybody looked into that?
So practically for the planning board, when an application comes before us, there's an escrow account put up and set up, and he will give us, sort of a not to exceed, and then that's reimbursed by the applicant. So that's kind of how it's working. We're not agreeing to pay him any money. We're agreeing to appoint him as the engineer, and should we need him, he's there,
Okay.
right? There's no retainer, there's no minimum. It's if we need him, that's the person we're going to, and here's the rate we would be paying.
Okay, thank you.
So there's not really, this is not a take or pay contract. This doesn't have any,
Yeah.
huge cost to the township. As I said before, to me, the greater cost to the township is if we are not prepared, not ready for the applications that are brewing.
And we,
Mr.
I
Hadley?
move that we authorize the chair to negotiate with the engineer as you proposed, and we move forward. And as a board, I think that's all we need to do. If I understand, all we need to do is to have a motion to authorize the continuation of this engineer, and for you to negotiate prices, et cetera, whatever needs to be done in the future.
Yeah, so the resolution would be to appoint Paul Ferreira and Boswell Engineering, and yes, I will negotiate in good faith and best of my ability.
So moved.
Second that.
Okay, so I think we have to vote on my motion first, though, right?
Well, I'm sorry, yes, you're,
Right, so, I mean,
Yes.
in terms of order, because, I mean, I would be fine, amending mine to what Matt says, but I would be more comfortable having a short-term, a contract month to month, or for a term that we can get out of, rather than just say, let's see how we negotiate. I mean,
so you
in
have
my,
a motion.
yeah, I made the motion
Yeah.
before.
Do we have a second on that one? So we're gonna end up having two motions, right? Just so
Right.
everyone's here where we
Yeah,
are.
so we have
Oh,
measures
thank you.
pending now, right, which is,
Could be a friendly amendment that to the motion, and that you attempt to negotiate it for a time period.
Well, my point is, I think that's what would happen. The difference between your and my motion is, I'm saying, let's do a contract now, but not bind ourselves to 12 months. That gives us the chance to have this negotiation. Your motion is different in saying, you're not concerned with the substance of it. We'll just have the chair handle that. And I'd rather have the body handle it, but that's, it could be handled either way.
I'll accept it as a friendly amendment to the motion. So we have one, we really have one, we have the motion with Dante's,
I would prefer, I think that we're getting,
yeah, let's just make sure
let's
it's
just
clear.
really clear
So-
what we're saying.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
we have-
confused.
And if it ends up being the same motion, then that's okay, it's the same vote, but for clarity.
I'll
purposes.
second Dante's motion.
Can you please
Which
just state
is-
Yeah.
really
Please,
quickly,
Mayor.
for the record, what you're.
Yes,
proposing?
it's that we authorize a contract with the Boswell firm, but not, at this point, not for a particular term. So that would be something that would be negotiated. So it could be, month to month, it could be something shorter so that you can finish your negotiation. But my motion would not include that this be a motion for the 12 months of 2024. Which is different than obviously what we've done with the attorney and the planner. So that's the difference.
So we have a second on that.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's 4. 5. All against? Just me. Motion is passed.
And just for purposes of clarity,
excuse me,
Mr. Catenacci, could you, make your motion and put up your vote?
I don't know, I think I can withdraw my
He's
motion.
You
withdrawing
withdraw,
it, yeah.
okay,
Yes.
that's fine,
Thank
that's what
And this way, I think you can negotiate.
Yep.
And if you have a different proposal, we could take that up after your discussion. But this, in my mind, this achieves your primary goal of having them to be able to participate now, and hopefully you'll work out things, and they'll accept this, or you guys will work up something different, and we could vote.
Yeah, I'm good. So, next on the agenda is approving the 2024 meeting. So the planning board typically approves the annual schedule. And in this case, the meetings will take place the third Monday of each month, unless a federal holiday unless it falls on a federal holiday, in which case will be the next day. So that will be this month, Tuesday. We're here on a Tuesday, and next month is Tuesday. Additionally, I'm proposing that the January 2025 meeting, so a year from now, be held on the second Monday of January as opposed to the third. There's been requests from last year to move to the second Monday. Not, from the logistics of what I've determined for this year, I don't think it's possible to move, but I don't want that request to be forgotten. So therefore, I'm gonna propose that we stay on the third Monday until the next year. In which case the dates will be January 16th, February 20th, March 18th, April 15th, May 20th, June 17th, July 15th, August 19th, September 16th, October 21st, November 18th, December 16th, and in 2025, the second Monday will be January 13th, 2025. And all of those should be on your agenda, just in case you're trying to remember all of these dates. May I have a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Can we have a tad bit discussion?
Certainly, I'm sorry.
I know FOSBIC meets on the second Monday,
Yes.
and so I don't know if that'll be a conflict next January.
So when we looked at it and we looked at rooms when we were trying to move it this year. We did not, I think we were able to clear the rooms. The court meets that day, but we were able to work that out. This time I was unavailable 2 days, Alexis was unavailable 2 days, the planner was unavailable, so this is why I'm proposing to keep it here. I will also tell you that we have a year now if there's an issue, to deal with it, and I would expect that we will, given the nature of this last conversation, probably be putting an RFP out for our professionals. So it's sort of this way, I'm proposing this date primarily so we don't forget which has been a request of the mayor from last year as he asked as deputy mayor, and he's asked again this year, and I basically have said I can't make it work. So this is why I'm making this proposal. But fair enough, Candace.
Yeah, and Emily, I do appreciate your efforts to try it. And the thing, Candy, I wanted to say was, I think there are some synergies in having the planning board meeting the same week as the township committee. In the past, Al's mentioned, and I agree with this, is there's times when the planning board wants to send something to the township committee, and it can take some weeks in between. So I think that's a helpful thing, also scheduling wise. And Emily did try to see if it's possible, since it is, and I appreciate her thought that we'll let folks know that we're thinking of going to that next year, and that will give time to a number of the committees to see if, and boards to see if they need to move things around. It's hard because we've got a number of boards and commissions, and it's hard to get things scheduled. Last year, I guess the planning board switched it, and that created some havoc with some other commissions. Now the other folks have adjusted, so it's something that happens. So I appreciate your thought and also your efforts.
I mean, I personally find it would be easier to have them the same week, because if you're traveling, so I think there are pros.
There are other things.
It's never easy in black and white.
Yeah.
So this was sort of what I came up with to move, to keep us moving, but also to recognize the mayor's request. Anyone else want to have anything they want to say before? Where was I?
So we're up to the vote, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll just ask again. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Oh, second. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any objections? Okay. Motion is passed. Okay, next one up. Agenda review. So we have one addition under oral reports. We are going to add a report from the Ringo's Advisory Committee, the request of Candace. So that will be added to the under oral reports. And other than that, I do not have any other changes. Oh, I lost it. I just missed out of turn. I missed it for some reason. Just going through it. Thank you. I'll do that next. Just missed one thing there. We have a motion to approve. We have to adopt the rules of order. So may I have a motion to approve Robert's rules of order, with the exception of the board recognizing members of the public to provide information out of turn? I have a motion.
I so move.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Now, where was I? So now we're gonna open to the public to, for items not on the agenda. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Open to the public. Francis?
Morning, Dwarf, coming up. Francis Gavigan, Amwell. I can appreciate what you said earlier about history, because I have a lot of history in this room, going back a number, 29 this year. But I'm also echo Dante's reservations about Ferrero Engineering, because in the past, when there was solar applications right here at Rosemont Ringo's and John Ringo Road, there was a little bit of questionable things that occurred with Ferrero. I don't know if it was this person or not. All I know is at the 11th hour, thank God, it was revealed that the engineer that they had hired, who had been ours, had worked on some stuff, and there was a submission with a Ferrero Engineering stamp in it, and time stopped, application failed, money went away for the next year, and we didn't end up with a huge solar farm on Saul's property. When you're talking about engineers and the costs, some have more thumb on the scale than others. You know, time and materials, well, there are people that will take a lot of time to look at something, and so the costs, not only to the township, but to the applicant. And one of the things that I think I'm hearing echoed here is you're wanting to be sensitive to residents and how much they're shelling out, and at times it's been an obscene amount of money. There are other engineers, and I have seen them in action because, as you know, Emily, I've gone to other townships and videotaped when there were large applications, and I've seen how well they did, or didn't do. But I don't think putting forth a quick RFP quietly couldn't get you an answer in the next month or something, and I applaud the sort of month-to-month that you're doing with Ferrero Engineering, because usually with mergers, you know, there are downsizing and there are looking to recover costs of having to pay off people to go away. So, you know, and there will be a lot of stormwater and other kind of things coming down, but I don't know how many applications you have waiting in the wings other than the reinterpretation. I'll have to come into the office, I guess, and find out, and things to that effect. Anyway, it's gonna be a good year. Looks like it's a good crew. Al, you did do a great job.
Thank you.
Dante, thank you for being concerned about the financial. And my personal observation and gut is Ferrero with a grain of salt. It's only 29 years. There are people that have been around here longer than I have, but they don't show up for meetings. They just text me wanting you to speak into the microphone. Thank you.
Anyone else? Pam?
What was I saying? Sorry, Jamie. I'm a little concerned about what you just did with the engineers, so let me share some thoughts. I understand the concern about the hourly rate. I think it's ridiculous for an engineer. With respect to the professionals, the governing body and planning board do not have the same attorney, but they can have the same planner, they don't have to. You can have, it makes it a little more cumbersome when they have different planners and engineers, but it is possible to have different ones. My concern about what you just did, making his contract without a one-year term, I think he's gonna quit, and you're gonna be without an engineer. Most contracts, I have never seen a professional contract that did not have a termination clause that either side could exercise. Usually within 30 or 60 days, either side can terminate the contract, which might get to what Dante was trying to do. But if you tell the engineer he basically does not have a year, I think he's gonna come back and he's gonna quit East Amwell, which is gonna leave you guys in a bind. So I understand that the township committee doesn't know what they wanna do with respect to the engineer, but the planning board does have the leeway to do what you want to do. My concern about you guys being without an engineer this time of the year, I don't think you're gonna find one, because the professionals look at the end of the year, around September, October, they start asking who's putting out RFPs. And they line up all of their municipalities, because they have to make sure they have those nights free every single month. So at this point, they've all got their municipal clients lined up. They may not have this day. So I think you're gonna be hard pressed, if he quits, to find another engineer. So that's what I'm worried about. So I just bring that up for you to consider. But I think giving them the year, if either side wants to exercise the termination clause, can. But I think you might run into some problems the way you just did it, for what it's worth.
Appreciate that. Seeing no one else here?
I personally think that.
One second. Seeing no one else, without objection, I'll close to the public. And then Mr. Katanashi.
If the engineer is going to quit, because we're not going to give him, it's not an engineer that I'd want to deal with, nor do I think you would want to deal with. We're not here. I mean, the parent, I haven't heard of the rate yet. All I hear is that it's outrageous and ridiculous and all these other things. So, well, I mean, we can't have him hold a gun to our head. So, and I can't believe that you cannot find another engineer if this person quits. I just, to me, there are too many engineers out there, and if that are willing to work probably for a lot less than quote unquote. And I hate to talk about what's outrageous, because I don't know the number. So if you let me know the number, I'll tell you whether I think it's outrageous.
It's less than an attorney makes. I'm
What?
sorry.
No, but, well, no.
Maybe not always. Depends on the.
And I understand that completely. I mean, I wouldn't be an attorney for this board, when I was practicing law, because you couldn't afford me. No, but other people could. But more importantly, my expertise was valuable to clients, to the general counsel, corporations who were willing to pay that fee. And I know there are attorneys who get $1,000 an hour, and there are attorneys who get $100 an hour. There's a wide range. The same thing is not quite as true of engineers, but I resent the kind of thing that's less than an attorney, because you don't know that. I mean, there are a lot of attorneys that are working for $100 an hour.
You're right. I withdraw that. Jamal, Mr. Godry.
So, if you found somebody who had a PE stamp and was willing to look at application, could we have an expert who wasn't under contract? Like somebody in East Amwell who was an expert.
No,
You'd have to go
Under
to
what
our-
authority would we pay him?
You don't have to pay him. What if I found somebody who could look at those plans and say, well, in my professional opinion, that's no box of chocolates. or whatever.
No, they have to be appointed, and if you are to go with someone else, has to be done with RFP, ideally.
Did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, just going back to this engineering thing, I mean, when I became the chair, I never signed any invoices for that engineer, and while he did raise his rates, I think Emily will do a very good job at whatever she can, however she negotiates with this firm, and then get back to us. And I have the utmost faith in Emily's skills. Otherwise, I wouldn't have recommended her to be the chair.
I will just say for the record that I would prefer to not be limited to a month to month. I think it would give me, I am concerned.
Well, for the record, my motion was not month to month. My motion was to appoint without a specified
With
term.
specific term.
So,
So does that, in your opinion, if it ends up being a year, would that be within, we can discuss this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can go offline.
We can.
I mean, bottom line, my intention is that allows you to talk to them and retain them and have them working and have any other necessary conversations you may have that may work out things so that it could be a term contract if they insist, or maybe they don't insist.
Okay.
But I don't think you're limited. That was just Matt suggested as an option, but I think you have more authority than that. And
I think the other example there is if it's not, it would be nice if the contract extended beyond the transition in the year, because my personal experience was I had a stormwater NPDS permit that was required that Bill Burr was involved in reviewing the design on, and then the year transpired and he wouldn't come out because he didn't have a contract. He wouldn't come out to sign off on
But
it.
let me say that may not have been the only reason why he wasn't responsive. It wasn't just the end of a term. So the problem is as Alexa was saying, or somebody was saying, these things have pros and cons. So binding someone to a long-year term might be great if the person's wonderful and it's working out. If it's not wonderful and working out, then you're stuck in such a long-term contract. So I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all fit.
Right.
The best thing really, I think, is to find, to make sure that we have found a firm that's a good fit for us. And we're not always the best fit because we're a small town. We don't have a lot of budget money. It's a different type of practice. If a firm of any type needs a big volume, we're not really the right one. And sometimes firms change in nature too. So I figured this is the best we could do when I did the motion to allow Emily to proceed with applications, but also to see what she can work out. It's a little bit imperfect, but I think it's the best under the circumstances.
Understand, thank you. We move on?
Yeah.
Next on the agenda is presentation of the minutes. Only those who were in attendance at the December meeting may vote on this one. May I have a motion to approve the December 18th regular meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
You weren't present, were you?
Oh, December? Oh, no, I'm
You
sorry.
weren't.
I wasn't.
You
No,
weren't.
that's
You were
right.
on,
guess
I was
You
away.
were someplace
Thank you.
else.
Thank you, yes. I was in sunny Mexico, so
Right.
yes, you're right. Thank you. I cannot
Everyone's
second.
entitled to a
Thank you.
Anyone else want a second?
The other person would be yourself or Mr. Catanacci.
Excuse me?
For this motion, or the second, for the December 18th, 2023 minutes, only yourself or Chairperson Deadweiler would be able to vote to approve those.
Okay.
So
So I'm
folks
gonna
desperately
second. So
need
the
a
two of
second
us.
if you're
I need a
interested.
second.
That's the translation.
Right.
Okay, and I vote to approve those minutes.
I agree.
Okay.
The rest
I've
of
got
us
that one
abstain
done.
for the record.
Yes.
Thank you
everyone
for
else
reminding me. I didn't remember that.
I don't know why you even remembered that. Okay. Resolutions for approval, I don't think we have anything on here. Let me make sure I'm going through this properly. And new business, we have none. Next up is unfinished business. And that is, discussion of master plan priorities and recommendations. I think, just with apologies for those who this is completely redundant. You should have in front of you a list of recommendations. These come from the master plan re-exam. I think that re-exam came up with something like 30 or 45 recommendations. And last year, under Chairman Nardi's leadership, we worked on completing a number of those recommendations. I think actually we did, got a good amount done. I remember the dark sky ordinance, which I think is with the township committee. We did some work on cleaning up some of the ordinance language. Address the warehouse concerns. So I last year, my own initiative with the chair's approval, I took those remaining recommendations, and actually with the help of Tam, I grouped them into I put them in logical groupings, and then I said to Tam, do these make sense? And she said, sometimes they do. This might belong here, and here's some ideas. But in the end, I take blame for that.
This is great.
And that was shared but not discussed last week, or at the last meeting. So it's on the agenda now. I would really love, to go through the board, those of you who have had a chance to take a look, what you think the priority should be. I mean, I really believe that we have a lot to do. I think, the township committee, and by, the mayor and Mr. Nardi, I think the governing body sort of sets the directions and the priorities. So I'm really eager to hear what you have to say, but I also want to hear what other members of the board have to say, and I will open it to the public after that. So, does anyone want to start? Not to put anyone on.
I'm just going to the area that I've had some involvement in, and it's my understanding that we have a new historic preservation committee, with lots of members, with lots of enthusiasm, and with lots of experience, and that they are ready, willing, and able to do what we didn't seem to be happening for many years. And they are, in my opinion, that's the right place for this to be happening. It's certainly in the first instance. And so with that in mind, I think we should, somebody, and I think it should be you, Emily, should, find out, should be in contact with the new chairman, I guess. Is it a chairman of the Preservation Committee? And the new chairman is?
It's Will.
Is Will.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you, Will.
so be in touch with Will Harrison, because there really, and as a matter of fact, there are meetings going on right now.
Got canceled.
What?
It got postponed to February.
Oh, it got postponed, okay. But,
Well,
yes,
the other
Ken.
thing is Mary Van Horn, I think, is now on the historical preservation. Is that right?
Yeah, but I think she's in Florida for a large portion of the year. So
Ah,
by state, that might be when she's not here.
yeah, I thought it might be useful for her to be the liaison between the two.
I don't understand why there's a necessity for a liaison.
Well, she's both on this board and on that committee, so she'd be a natural person to carry information back and forth.
Okay.
Just convenience.
I do agree that, it's one of the items that's in progress, right? We had the historic preservation plan element. The first was to get the inventory.
Yeah.
And the next is, develop the standards. Positive. I am not going to, not in a position to make a commitment either way at this point, but
Sure.
I do recognize that we have that there and it's underway and remains a priority. And, we don't have all the oral reports this time. Next time we will, and they're after this, but, the farmland preservation plan, I think, has made quite a bit of progress last year. So there are some things that are still in progress. And, we do have I expect that we have a couple meetings worth of applications coming, so it's not like we're gonna have a ton of work time to start working on new things, but if there are things on this list that, you say, we really need to elevate this, there's some imminent issue that we need to take care of, I think now we should discuss it.
I'll jump in. So some of the things that I was thinking of that we had talked about last time include some of the cleanup items. I know Al was, and I had started working a little bit on cleaning up ordinances, looking through. Also in cleanup, I think, both corner lots and grandfathered lots, I think would be two things worth tackling. I think you have them under ordinance cleanup in your category. I think those might be suitable topics to do early on.
Could you explain what the grandfather lot refers to?
So do we have a clear enough definition? I know we've had some issues in town about application of when lots are grandfathered. I mean, grandfathering generally is when we had our down zoning where you needed more acreage, to build. So there's, as part of that, there was a definition of what it meant to be grandfathered, what your lot size was, where that carries through to. I don't think there's enough clarity about that, and so I think it's an issue we should look at and see whether we want to recommend clarifications to the township committee on that. For example, corner lots, I think the same kind of thing. Issues have popped up, and I don't know that we're clear on what we're requiring, whether it's what we want to be requiring.
So, I know of a couple properties that have buildable lots that are less than 10 acres, but they're buildable now because they've been subdivided. They're grandfathered. We're not talking about taking that away.
No, none of this would be to take away rights that have been granted, like if there's a subdivision plan and someone's authorized to have something left. I think it's not necessarily that, but I think we need to look into it, investigate more to see what the circumstances are that are coming up and seeing if we're handling it properly.
Okay.
So it's not loss of rights in that respect is not the issue. So I understand.
One of the things that's important to me is circulation plan. I mean, I've got the 2014 Ringo's Village study, and it talks about the same thing and nothing.
Yeah.
And we've talked about it forever. Part of the problem is that the roads are controlled by different entities. And I don't know if there's anybody who can help us negotiate that, or if there's somebody in the planning area in our planning firm that could drop a plan and then figure out how to attack that. I don't know if there's any money in the infrastructure bill that was passed by Biden that we might look at grants to help us fund. Like, we don't have a sidewalk. We're gonna ultimately get the senior housing, and yet we need a sidewalk that will help go from there and probably go up farther on Old York. I just see a lot of needs there. And while we can't tackle it in the next couple of months, what I'm wondering is if there's some process we can get started so that after the big applications are through, we'll have some information ready to go.
I mean, I think that's a good suggestion. I mean, circulation and traffic and speeding and all those issues in town, I agree, are an important issue. The way I think of these, like, subcommittees that we set up to work on these is, I mean, the first part is being able to report back to the rest on, so what do we have currently, or what was recommended in the last iteration? I don't know what that is. And then if that then cues up issues like, well, to whom would we go to try to deal with it, whether it's going to DOT because we've got, multiple state roads, or them in the county. I mean, I've talked a little bit to DOT in the county about willingness to have a meeting to talk about those issues, and I think they're willing. So I think if a subcommittee briefed everybody on where we are, what we've recommended before, that could crystallize some issues that we could use going forward. So I think that is a good idea too.
And I think that we'll probably need to make a little noise. We may need to, maybe even lean on our elected officials, at the state level to see if they can help get DOT to a meeting. I mean, at some point, it's going to take. I don't think they see this as a high priority, so we're going to need to make it a higher priority.
Yeah, but DOT's defense, they'd be willing to have the meeting, but I don't disagree with,
I mean,
political
like, all
pressure
the-
and the like.
yeah.
But so to me, it's more about, I mean, I don't fully understand all the issues that were, and what was recommended. But if necessary, yeah, we could, get people advocating for it, but I don't know exactly what you're referencing. I mean, do you have a summary of what's been recommended
we've
before?
got the old 2014 Ringo's study, and it talks about the same thing that we've talked about. Now it's 2024.
What is that?
That we've got to reduce speeding, that there's a dangerous intersection, that we've got to improve circulation in the town, that we have to have more sidewalks. There's several recommendations that are in there. One of the things that concerns me too is now we're not getting state police reports. So we might have data about speeding, we might have data about accidents, and we don't have that data. So if we want to go to the DOT and say, hey, look, this is dangerous in our village, and now we're getting a senior complex that's right there.
Yep.
We don't have that data.
I mean, I agree in terms of having a subcommittee, prep that and have issues. I think that would be helpful. And like I said, I've had some preliminary talks with folks, and they're willing to have the meeting, but I don't know of it much other than residents have told me there's speeding happening there, and it's not the best walkable downtown. But so if that's all there is, that's fine. We can queue up issues. But if there's more than that, that would be great. What's the circulation issue with the township? Is that a different issue than just Ringo's Village? Okay.
I mean, every time I've ever seen it referenced, it's always been Ringo's. But there may be wider, we've talked about other circulation issues, like keeping the roads narrow, keeping the one-lane bridges so people don't speed down there. So there's been other circulation outside of Ringo's that have come up, but it doesn't seem to be as pressing as what's always in the village.
The thing I hear about from residents is the village,
Is
and
the
that
village.
is something I would like us to try to address. So I'd be supportive of us having a subcommittee and try to queue that up.
And can I just add, since
Yeah,
we're
please.
talking about adoption of a circulation element, which is part of the master plan, Megan will be invaluable in helping guide you in the direction that you need to go, because it is a master plan element,
Yeah.
and that is what she does.
Yeah, and that's where this recommendation came from. And also to answer your question, in some of her recommendations, there was, review and evaluate the interconnectedness of public land, inventory the public easements, looking at our riding trail system. So you could argue, when I kind of put these in a group, put that all together as a circulation, I do, from my point of view, I definitely heard a lot about Ringo's, but I know there are people in the community who've brought up the trails as well as being an issue, so I think putting.
Yeah, the Amwell Valley Trail Association,
Yeah.
I mean, they had great maps of hundreds of miles of trails throughout, well, maybe not hundreds, but lots and lots
Lot
of
of
trails
trails, yeah.
throughout
Like,
the township.
Private
And
property owners.
yep,
allow that
and
too.
little by little, that's gotten eroded away, and so
Well, there's
that's,
still a lot there, but there's been a lot of new people who moved in who don't want the trails on their properties anymore. There still are a lot of trails out there, but they're not what they used to be, no.
yeah, and because of that, the interconnectedness part of it has broken down. And that's what I think is sort of causing some unrest.
Well, I'm not sure. I didn't think of that in terms of circulation. Is that what you think of as circulation? But
Circulation is typically more.
it's
roads,
automobile and
bridges,
vehicle, right?
and
But-
things like that, typically,
but that is an issue I do hear folks talk about, and I know Francis reminds us about that, in the
Yep.
trail system. So
Yeah, I mean, I sort of like grouping them all together, if we're gonna do that plan, it's a potential way of dealing with it.
Is there any reason why we can't have, certainly it seems to me, with a township, a committee that's appointed by the township, is there any reason why we simply can't require a written report? The report can say we've done nothing since the last meeting, but at least we'll know, and we'll know exactly what the committee has done, as opposed to having liaisons and someone telling their version and someone disagreeing with that version of what happened in the meeting. All I think that we need, and I'm back to historic preservation. What we need is a report. I mean, we don't need people coming in here and you know, telling their version of what happened in the meeting. That was the problem in the past. There were 9 versions. So it just seems to me to be very simple to simply say to the chairman of the committee, you know, he can designate someone to do the report, or he can do the report. And the report doesn't have to be 47 pages long. It can be, you know, it can be 3 sentences. But rather than us wondering what's happened and the person not showing up for a meeting, and then 3 months have gone by and nobody knows what's going on, and then you got people standing up and saying, well, this went on and that went on, and I disagree with this, and we don't need to deal with all of that. Just simply a report to this committee as to what they've done. So we know they're doing their job, that's all.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just trying to see if I understand you. So you're suggesting that the planning board ask the Historic Preservation Commission to give us a report on something?
On what they've done with respect to the issues that we've asked them to address.
I'm not under the impression that we have that authority to delegate this, you know, they have their own, you know, they're working on certain things, and we're gonna get information from them. There are minutes, I'm assuming, I don't wanna go out of these meetings. Some of them are videos, but I wasn't, do we have the authority to?
That's a good
Well,
question.
that's what I was trying to find out. So now I think I understand that you're saying if we do number 3 in progress here, which is draft and adopt the historic preservation plan element, how should we go about that? And you're
Yes.
saying try to. So I mean, so doing the plan elements obviously something this body has to do.
Yes.
So the question is, how do we get info? So I guess the answer to your question is we could ask them. We could say we're doing an element. Would your committee provide X, Y, and Z? And I assume they would be interested in doing it. But I don't know if that helps.
Right, and then during oral reports, you know, HPC, for example, could, you know, have that 3-sentence or whatever, all the bullet points of
Yeah,
we
but
accomplished A,
as
B,
this-
and
as
C,
opposed
or
to
we're
an
working
or-
on A, B, and
as-
C.
Why does it have to be an oral report? Why can't it be a written
see.
report?
It can be a written report, but maybe that liaison or, you know, the chairperson for that committee can come in front of the board and say, you know, here's what we did for the last month, you know, we accomplished, you know, whatever.
If they want to,
With
if they
a
want to give an
document.
oral report in addition, that's fine. But I just
You want
want
us
to
to
know
request that.
what's going on with it. I mean, I'd like to know if they're doing something, they were resentful that we were kind of stepping on their toes, but found out that we couldn't get any information, and then we found out there were records that simply disappeared. I mean, and there are no minutes. I'm sorry. It'd be very nice if we got if there were detailed minutes of every one of these committees' meetings, and we could just look at the minutes and see what they did. But they haven't existed in the past. You're
Rich,
gonna have
would
to
you
do
be would you be satisfied if Emily, you know, gave a call to the chair of that body and then had that conversation? Because she, I mean, she could
Yeah.
find out, and
I would think they would be thrilled
Right.
to be able to give us their input on all of these things.
well, that's what I'm thinking. Maybe a personal conversation goes farther than like us issuing requests. Would you send us a written report? I'm sure she could get to that.
I'm certainly happy to reach out, introduce myself, and see where they are. I liked your suggestion. If Mary is amenable, I will ask her when she's available. You know, ultimately, I may not, you know, we would like them to develop those architectural standards. I don't know that it would be outside our ability if we so prioritize and had the resources and the expertise.
Good.
Did you want to say something else? Sorry.
Yeah, so I think it's important to remember with the big ticket items, right, the master plan elements, can obviously have as much input from the community, whatever committee it may be. But I think it's important if we know, especially when we're talking about big ticket items like a master plan element, we're pointed in one direction, so whether it be a circulation or historic preservation, just because it's gonna take a lot of energy from both the planner, this board, and if you do have the Historic Preservation Committee involved. So you can gladly ask the committee, the Historic Preservation Committee, for a report. Oral reports are always nice too, because if you have a written report and you have someone who is there to
Explain it.
essentially explain and ask questions of this board, they're not going back and forth as much, but there is obviously value too to having a written report and something to work off of. Almost like, think of like authentication of a document, so.
And Emily, could I add something as well?
Yes.
So in advance of this meeting, I had spoken with Tam, because Tam, I thought, had given some good suggestions before about coming up with guidelines on historic preservation guidelines, and was asking her opinion about whether she'd be interested in working on that to provide some of her guidance, but also how to go forward. And her suggestion was, maybe even having a committee that was made up with members of, this body and historic preservation, which made sense to me. So I just forward that because I've heard her say that before, and I think that plays into what we're talking about now. And if we had guidelines, we're protecting our residents and our character. So if that can fit into it, I think,
Okay.
however you decide, I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah, I'd like to also see if there's grants or if we can find some money in the budget.
Oh, yeah.
I also, with spare time, but I'd also love to see if we can find any grants for this, or if we can find a small amount of money in the budget to hire somebody. But again, I would need to come up with something specific. I know the budget's tight, but,
Mhm.
and
Okay.
Just a quick comment. I have a housemate who's an architect,
okay.
and he said that Hopewell, Lambertville, all these places have architectural guidelines for this that he's going to try to find for me.
Okay.
That's great.
And he may be able to, he's very interested in this area, to help us out a little bit with
I
that.
think that you
So I'll
may-
see what I can find.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. And I think, I take your point about there's, only so many things we can do at once. And we, what we prioritize. This architectural, the historic preservation plan element was something from last year that if you recall, we started working on. So I'd like to not drop it if we can, onto circulation. I feel like that's gonna be a longer lift. So that's my opinion. We'll see, I think we've had a good discussion. If there is not any specific thing, person other than Candace saying, I would like to raise my hand to work on circulation, I propose we continue working on what's in progress, get those done, and then we can start to do some homework on some of the others as they come, so that, by the time we're done with, a few months from now, we have another one something else that we're ready to start to check off. I know that sounds kind of vague.
So I was just conferring with Al, because we're still interested in working on the one that we started, which is
The
closing
ordinance.
some of the
Well,
loopholes in the
yes.
ordinances,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep,
And Ringo's as well. I know Ringo's is, very important to our community, and
yep. So what if we say we're gonna continue doing the ordinance
Uh-huh.
cleanup, and we'll start on Ringo's?
Yep.
Yep.
The circulation plan.
I think
Okay.
that's good.
Yep, and that also sort of also works with the historic preservation, because it's
correct.
very much all related. Yep. Anything else? I wanna just, take the opportunity to open to the public, if we wanna get any input on this. May I have a motion to open to the public?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone from the public who wants to talk about this, who wants to weigh in on this? I know there's a huge number of you, but I just wanna give the opportunity. There'll be another opportunity at the end of the meeting if you would
No, I
like
was
to.
just wondering, is this list that you're all working from something that's been shared with the public?
Yes, it was last month.
I thought I put
and-
this on the back table
And I
in
think there may be some.
December meeting,
Yeah,
And it's back there now.
and it's
and
back
it's
there.
back there now.
And it's the same list from, came out of the master plan re-exam, just regrouped. But yes,
Are you looking for volunteers to raise their hand on some of these things that aren't currently in progress?
yes.
Okay, I've talked to Raritan, and I've talked to some of the hunting clubs, and we have a depredation permit at the Lima Family Farm. I could do guidance on So that this deer management control plan, it's something I can get some traction on, and I could do the idea of maybe just a concise written report about what resources are out there and where we might go with it.
We'll put that on the agenda for next month. Complete written report, complete.
Okay, all right, and I can do that. I can tell you what I found. Because some of it is actually really useful. If people want to get a depredation permit,
Yeah.
they could be culling the herd on their property.
Yes. We're technically open to the public. Anyone else want to speak?
Al, I can talk to you a little bit about that too.
You coming up? It's up to you. I know this is an area that you have some information, so I welcome it, as I said.
Just real quick, if you're, first of all, with respect to depredation permits, if you're interested, a year or two ago, I did an Oprah request at the state to find out who had depredation permits in the township, so I can get you that information if you'd like.
Oh, that's
I
great.
think there's like 6 or 7 of them. 6 or 7 people did that. During COVID lockdown, I got bored, so I did a traffic calming plan for Ringos. So if you want to see that,
I have seen it,
okay, there's that.
yeah,
And,
but I would like to see it again. I saw it when you did it.
okay, all right. And I just started doing a first draft of the historic preservation, amending our historic preservation ordinance to include architectural standards. It's just a first draft. I thought it might be helpful for the town to have something to start with. My plan was to bring it to the township committee at their next meeting, but I'll finish it soon, and you guys can have
Thank
that
you.
to work with. So.
Awesome.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we'll look forward to that.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dan.
Without objection, we'll close to the public. Let me think, where are we now? I've lost my
Correspondence?
items for discussion. So this says invoices.
I
I
lied.
think actually we're looking for approval of invoices. Has everyone had a chance to look at them? Any questions? Can I get a motion to approve them?
So moved.
Second? Candace? Everyone in favor? Anyone objecting? Okay, motion is passed. Next one is oral reports, and, Candace, you're up, first one. Added, if you remember, I added
Yes,
Candace there.
yes.
Added Ringo's advisor.
The Ringo's Advisory Committee. Dante's our liaison for that, so he can probably speak to this too. One of the things that we've done in the last year is identify some properties in town that we thought might need inspection. We do have an unfit and unsafe housing ordinance. And so if a construction inspector for the township finds something unsafe, then we can take some action on that, or unfit. 4 of the 5 properties that we identified as top of the list, actually, people started fixing up. And so that left 1 property that everybody has been very concerned about, the old Oddfellows Hall. And we were going to get that inspected. I don't know where we are in that process, but that was one of the things that we are going to get inspected to check. So that's one thing that the Ringo's Advisory Committee's been doing that really also is in accord with this. The second thing that we've been doing is looking at ways. We have a lot of places that need volunteers. We have a lot of nonprofits in town that nobody even knows about or pays attention to. So one of the things that we've been talking about is working with Parks and Rec for their Friday nights at the park and having at least one of them have a sort of a fair of all the different nonprofits in town and places in town, so that especially younger people, because a lot of younger people go to the Friday nights at the park, can become aware of where volunteer opportunities are, can be aware of things that they might be interested in. We can have youth, there's different youth ones, there's different animal ones, and there's different, like the Grange, there's a variety of different things that most people do not know about. So we're trying to bring awareness to some of those things that are happening. So that's what we've been working on.
Well, I'll bring it up. I'm the liaison to Park and Rec, and we have our meeting on Thursday, and I will definitely bring that up.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Dante, I did not realize that you were on the Ringo's Advisory Committee as well, so if there's anything you want to add, I apologize.
No, that was a helpful summary, and I'm appreciative that RVAC is working on a number of issues and I think getting pretty active, and I think it's a good thing.
Next is Township Committee.
So I'll chip in on one thing, and Al, please jump in on anything as well. So in terms of land use matters, we had a presentation by New Jersey Conservation Foundation about Rainbow Hill Preserve. Rainbow Hill Preserve is a tremendous asset for the township. It's approximately 1,100 acres of open space. About half of it is in Somerset County, half of it is here in 100/East Amwell, 528 acres. We did have some issues with residents about folks excitedly going to see the new preserve and going up North Hill Road. So there were concerns about traffic and overflow at the parking lot up there. So we spoke to NJCF, and they've been working on parking lot off of Wurtsville Road, where there'd be less issues with the residents, and also it's a county road. The township also put up signs, electronic signs, which remind people that it's only 25 miles per hour, and they also count the number of cars going up there. So we found that, fortunately, the average speed limit of cars going up there for the week that we got the data was only 25. There was just one sort of scofflaw that was driving like 45 or 50, but so we'll try to work on that. So we're trying to work on issues, but we had a very successful meeting, I thought, with residents showing up, hearing the presentation, giving their comments, and the best part was that both sides, NJCF and residents, seemed to really listen to each other. And of course, that's what you need when you have valuable resource up there. You have to make sure, though, that it's being considerate of the neighbors, and we don't have issues. So we'll continue to work on that. But we, as a township committee, hosted that, even though we don't have a formal obligation in it, because it was important. So in terms of the land use stuff, I think that was one thing to make sure all of you were aware of.
I was not there in person, but I watched it. It was actually, it was really
nice,
good.
good.
Yeah.
Good.
It's actually, speaking of it not being in person, it's actually really, I mean, I watched it at home, and it's really, I'm really grateful to have that ability when you can't come in person. And whether you're watching it live or later, it's really good. So
Good.
not everyone does that, so just kudos to East Amwell for that. Anyone else?
Yeah, one last thing, just, jumping on Dante's coattails, there was a couple of items from 2023 Planning Board that I made some modifications to, like the dark skies to pass to TC. There were some issues, continuing from 2023 to 2024, noticing issues, but Township Committee will take care of those. I haven't seen any agendas, but, February,
dark
March,
skies, we
dark
should-
skies, removing like the car wash and things of that
Okay.
nature.
Okay.
So, and I'll pass that information right along to you as well.
Help us keep track of that. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Planning Board Secretary, do you have anything you want to?
Only, I hope everyone was able to get into the drive and receive the information regarding agendas, our agenda and the supplemental information. We are using the Outlook Drive. If you do have any difficulties, please reach out to me so that maybe I could print up a packet or arrange with you alternative methods for delivery. And as well, when applications will come through, because I would prefer you all to be able to review them as soon as possible, I will send out an email and then I'll have hard copies in the office that will be available to everyone.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Wait, did you or Al want to mention anything about training?
Yes.
Good, thank you.
Thank
I
you.
forgot. I will let you, actually, Al, do you want to?
I'll let Al, I think.
Yeah, I realize it's out.
Sure. So with all these new board members here, and I remember when I first served in way back when and had all these questions, and I was in like an alternate 4 when I
So was I.
for
Best
South
ones
Brunswick. But I reached out to somebody I know who's willing to train the planning board / zoning board part of us on things that we can expect coming forward. It might be, 90-minute meeting. He wants to come in person, so I don't know the dates just yet. I'm waiting for his proposal. Township committee will hopefully approve it. And it's educational. That's all it is. It's like, this is what you might see. Here's how you notice, things of that nature. But if you have any questions of, serving on this board as a planning board or, eventually, on zoning, email me and I will give him all those questions and he will take care of them. He's been around a long time. He knows what he's talking about and he's giving us a good rate. Yes,
So
ma'am.
this is on top of the state training that we're gonna
Yeah,
get?
yeah, this is more personal.
Yeah, good.
And one of the significant parts of it is, the state training may happen months and months from now, but
Yeah.
we've got new folks on the planning board.
Mhm.
We have some applications that may be coming up soon, and so to make sure that we're filling the gap. And so, so that's why I thought when Al suggested this, I thought it was particularly helpful.
Yeah,
So
especially.
that we don't have to have folks waiting to get their full training before starting work.
Super.
Mm-hmm.
And then I recall when I first joined, we got a multi-page document that I found, I can't remember what it was called and where it came from, but it came in. I will find it. It came from our attorney. I forget where we got it.
I
It was
remember.
really, really
Kristen,
helpful.
you handed it out, didn't you?
It-
Last
I will
year?
find it. It's in
Yeah,
my
I know what
email.
you're, yeah, I have that as
And I think we
well.
can share that with members too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good idea.
But there's a lot of information.
And there's a lot to process. I mean,
We
this
may
is-
too, have like a, kind of like a packet that we use and keep with us, just like the kind of like easy reference of what each variance is,
Mhm,
what the
mhm.
power, especially with the joint board, what you can vote on, what you can't when you're serving as a zoning, when you're serving in a zoning board, and when you're serving in a planning board, that,
Mhm.
I can see if we can, distribute to the board too.
That'd be great.
More
Beautiful.
information.
Thank you.
Alex, is there anything else
And-
you want to say? Oh, go ahead.
That also serves as a reminder, thank you. There is state mandatory training for all of our new board members. It does not apply to our elected officials, but thank you for everyone who has responded. And anyone who I'm waiting to hear from, please let me know which dates work for you.
And how about the state stormwater training course that we took last
Oh, that's-
October, November, somewhere in there?
I was not
Were you
informed
with
about
that? All
the
right,
new
yeah, I think Linda
They
might have sent that
probably
out, but
Yeah,
requirements.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
More training.
mandatory.
yeah.
And there's a little quiz at the end.
We can make sure to send you the link. I bet you it's the same link, and folks can just go on and just watch it.
Yeah, I thought it was actually,
Pretty well done.
the production value wasn't crazy
Right.
high, but I learned a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so, yeah, I think I put it.
Anything else? Anything else from you, Kristen?
That's everything.
Is there anything you want to share?
Not
I
that
know
I'm
you're
aware
not
of.
agenda, I just wanted to give you an
No, I
opportunity.
think, I
to-
appreciate it. No, I do not, as of
Okay.
right now, thank you.
And the last thing on the agenda is chair report. I'm gonna pass this time. We've spoken a lot. And then finally, open to the public. Do I have a motion to open to the public?
So moved. Or second.
Okay.
I'll second Candy's motion.
Any objections? Seeing no objections. Open to the public one last time. For tonight, not
It'll-
forever.
Yeah, not unless somebody fells me. One quick reminder that I think that there's a requirement that when you have applications, they do get forwarded to the Historic Preservation Committee to see if there's something that is there within their purview or interest that might have fallen across, to the wayside. And I would strongly support that you work on the updating of standards, number 24, and things like side yard setbacks and bulk standards, especially with non-conforming lots. A lot of what is in there, while in an idealistic fashion, might resonate with strong preferences, but from a practical perspective, it's very onerous on residents. Some of the density and the coverage and checklist from health. One thing that was very interesting in that meeting with the New Jersey Conservation was the diversity of strong opinions. It should be a reserve and no people. Oh, there should be people using it, and it being pointed out that with state money comes access to the public. I did talk to the people who mowed the trails up there, and there were 27 miles of trails in the air park. They're not currently being maintained because the Conservation Foundation didn't want it, but with the gentleman who lived on North Hill Road who was concerned about the red trail, there could be some synergy in revisiting some of that stuff so that trails and access could be down in the lower part where the soils are already contaminated, you know, whatever. And that parking lot that they've used, that they open, but they don't open it during the week, it's also a floodplain. So there are issues and challenges that have to be addressed with getting access to that land, especially there at Elizabeth Road. You know, parking people there is fine, but people going in there for horses, their cars touching, their feet touching people's cars, they're not feeling safe, and the owners of those cars might not appreciate, you know, muddy footprints or things banging into them if there's a horse trying to squeeze through. So there is work to be done, and there is stuff that, believe it or not, has been accomplished over the years. So I don't know how much stuff got thrown out, but at least work on your design standards for those people here in the village down at the end where they wanted to have a shed, and because of the setbacks, it had to be right in the center of their backyard, and septics and all this, you know, some reasonableness would be appreciated, and some circulation outside of the village, and speed limits and posting of signs, you know, those slow down, the horses have the right of way. That would be a great sign to put on North Hill Road, and leaning on the county to put them on the county or some other places, you know, to educate people, because they see a horse and they speed up and see if they can jump into a ditch. All right, that's it. Good job, good start. In nomine Patria Filii Spiritus Sancti, you're gonna need it.
Anyone else? Without objection, we'll close to the public. And the next thing is, we should be adjourning unless there's anything else. Anyone else wanna say anything? Otherwise, I'm gonna look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Good meeting, thanks.
Like a
Good job.
gavel.
Yep.
Why not?
Strong gavel technique.
Wrong
Now,
hand.
everybody
I'm
who is-
left-handed and I use my right hand.
Everybody who is listening on,
Yep.